What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing today? Today, I have a special guest. It's an English songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer who specializes in creating music for films and TV. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the legend himself, G. Tomac, in the building. How you doing?
I'm good in my building and in your building.
There you go. Both buildings at the same time. How's everything?
Good. Yeah, it's been a pretty good summer so far. A lot going on. I keep thinking certain days are other days, and I go, "Oh, really? Today's a Tuesday, is it?" And I thought it was Monday. So, but that's just the nature of just being doing the ongoing of all these various things I'm doing right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I couldn't imagine your schedule being extremely busy. So I do appreciate you taking time to come and talk to me for a little bit. So that
Of
means
course.
most, man. Um, Talking about yourself, I mean, what made you become a musician?
Um, well, the that's not the loaded question anymore, but it used to be. But so many, there's a documentary right now being made on my life and career with Netflix, and
Okay.
we're probably about halfway done with it. And it's all the question. I thought it was a very good question. I had to think about it when I talk about it in the documentary.
Hmm.
But really, the first time in coming to America for the first time as a kid, I mean, I was 12, and I had a good mate who was black, African American, if you will, and I think he was the only one that really kind of understood me because I had this Brummie accent and everything.
Hmm.
Mind you, I came over here with my parents,
Yeah.
and he had gotten my dad got a job in Wichita, Kansas, and he'd gotten tickets to go see James Brown, and so I went to that. I was one of maybe three or four white kids in the audience, and
Hmm.
it was just compelling. As I say in the documentary, it was the thing. I was always into music before that, but there was
Okay.
something about the performance factor and his soulfulness, and that this guy put all of this together. I was just, I didn't really know that at that time. I just thought he was an enigma. It was
Okay.
just sort of and needless to say, he was legendary. But there was a combination of things. I was always into various kinds of music like that. I loved, even at an early age, I was into jazz music.
Okay.
And, it was something because I love things that are just off of center, not for any other reason that just the challenge of, you know, the listening challenge of listening to stuff and dissecting them and finding a way in which how does all that work,
Hmm.
And I mean, it doesn't always have to be complicated, um, simplistic thing. I sort of ride all of it, and I think, the obvious ones of who inspired you. Well, I mean, that's a loaded, everybody from Burt Bacharach to Prince to, God, I mean, it's just the list goes on. So there's no one particular person that had an effect on my writing or singing for that matter. Because I was a singer. I was, before I became a writer, I didn't really write my first song till I was about 15, I think, something like that.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
that was horrible.
and so you were already from the early start, ready knew that you wanted to at least pursue in music, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there was a point when I was about 11, 12. If I couldn't do this, I don't know why I'm on this planet, It just
Gotcha.
was so ingrained in my soul and, you know, um, yeah. And I was, as I said, open to all kinds of different kinds of music, Latin music, this one, I think it made it hard for me to discover myself because I was so influenced by the various different kinds of music.
Hmm. That's interesting.
But I did find myself.
You did. There you go. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as you said, you kind of grasped to kind of everything, which is kind of cool, being of a Latin descent. I can hear Latin music. There's is certain times where I want to listen to country music. Certain times I want to kind of listen to the 80s. And I think nowadays children growing up, especially this era, they're kind of stuck on one thing. You know, they're stuck on one genre of music and they kind of don't explore, which is
Yeah.
terrible. You know, it's
It's very, very true what you
Mhm.
just said. I'm doing a musical now with Paul Brooks, who produced My Big Fat Greek Wedding and also Pitch Perfect, the whole Pitch Perfect franchise.
Cool.
And I had worked with him on a movie called Chasing Amy some time ago. I don't know if you know that film.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, there you go.
Oh,
Say
yeah.
no. And it's a brilliant little indie film, early days of Ben Affleck and a few others. But we met and we got on really well. He's a fellow Brit, and he was just starting to find the financing for My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And then we kept in touch over the years, and then went on to do Pitch Perfect. And then during the pandemic, he asked me, he said, you should come, he saw what I was doing with Lost Boys, the musical. And he said, you should write me a musical. We can go straight to the screen like La La Land. So, point being, I don't want to go on off on that track, but I thought about it, and I said, well, what about? He said, well, 80s, something 80s. It's good comfort food, I think, at this point. And so, about 3 or 4 months later, I took a run. I was taking a run, and I had this epiphany about pen pals in the 80s, because it was sort of the last bit of what that was. And I did a bunch of research on it. And I thought, wow, 6 different characters, London, New York, and LA, all places that I live.
Mhm.
And coming of age in 1986 into 87, 6 different seniors in high school and what goes on in their year, in that year. And so far, scripts written and some rewrites in this. We're in pre-production with it, but it's called Don't You Forget About Me. And it's basically they all sign off at the end. And it's funny, it's pull your heartstrings, and it's edgy. And yeah, I'm really proud of, it's the first time I've actually he did a lot of directed a lot of big music videos back in the 80s and 90s, and good writer, British as well. And but anyway, I find that the generation that is now of like 18 to 28, I think to your point,
Yeah.
there's something about that decade. And I have a son who is enamored by that decade, and he's 20 now. It's hard to believe. And he's a clothes designer. He's doing well. I mean, dad did not help him other than pay a few things here and there. But I did connect, it was like one of those things, you're doing this on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Supportive, but you gotta earn it, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, but yeah, it's fascinating to see that decade, which is a decade that if you want, started my career and I excelled at, in it, with my music. But it had so many other ramifications going on for it, the culture of it, and I think I don't know how old you are, but you're well aware of the 80s, because there was certainly enough films out there as a kid coming up. Needless to say, Lost Boys
Yeah.
and Fast Times and all the other 80s films that I had the good fortune to write music for.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think 80s is a genre that, like you said, is it's feel good. A lot of people go back to just listening in the 80s, or just, I mean, look at all these filmmakers that do, what are they doing? Throwbacks to 80 movies, because it's such a big topic and stuff. And um I just went to a Weird Al Yankovic
Yeah, I
concert.
think it was all. Yeah, I beg your pardon.
I said I
What
went
did you
to a
say?
I went to a Weird Al Yankovic concert 2 days ago, and
Oh
like I said,
yeah.
and I
Oh,
feel like,
did you?
again, there's a certain amount of people that listen to him, and like I said, when I was in the crowd, a lady next to me was like, "Oh," she's like, "How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" I'm like, "Well, I'm 35." She's like, "I just never knew that he hit." you know, she's like, this is my generation. I'm 53 and I understand, but she's like, I just didn't think he had such an impact on the younger crowd. I'm like, well, you know, my uncle passed it down to me and you know, he listened to it and I listened to it and I'll pass it down to my kids and that's how
Yeah,
it works, you know?
that's right.
So,
Yeah, well, I think it's the one decade that the pass me down has been very deal
mhm.
at and Jameson was there too. It was at the Village Relic Museum, and it was an outdoor concert with the group. This amazing cover band. They do just all they do is movie soundtracks to. It was Back to the Future a party, you know, for the 40th anniversary, and it was interesting seeing the different age groups that were just responding to
Yep.
all the covers. And I got up and got up and did I Still Believe.
Nice. Nice.
So it was fascinating seeing this generation. I mean, you know, and then you've got like those 40s, the 50s that saw the movie when they went to see Lost Boys without matter when they were 16, or you know. So yeah, it's a fascinating real human connection. The 90s was, but we were going right. We what happened, what's interesting in Don't You Forget About Me is there's these predictabilities that are going on in the writing. Well, boy, what's it going to be like in 1995, you know? And one of the one of the characters, Sarah, she's 16 years of age, and she's a techie, and she has autism, but you didn't know what autism was back then, and you feel like she's a little Gates and Steve Jobs
Mhm.
because she's so into what the future is. And it's a fascinating sort of character, but she's calling it already on like, oh, we're not going to be too bad. In the future, we won't be doing these handwritten things. She's the only one that types her stuff,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, types her letter and then sends it off. But
Mhm.
it's a dear, and I love that it's just sort of telling, it's not being preachy in any way, really,
Mhm.
but it's telling a story of a gone by more innocent period of time, if you will, you know?
Yeah.
And it was also the beginning of like all kinds of bad shit too that we, you know, not to do with the internet, but you know, we got to know that bad stuff happened in the 80s.
Yep.
Much more bad shit happens in our times, you know?
Yeah.
But but we weren't bombarded. You know, we had phones that you pulled off the kitchen wall, and you could walk out to the swimming pool with it with a long cord that would
Mhm.
stretch across the pool. By
Yeah.
the way, that's in the movie.
Oh, nice.
And oh, there's so many, you know, taking the piss. That's our British expression of just that period. And yeah, it's been delightful working with Paul Brooks because here's a guy that basically he's a maverick, you know. He has this very, that's my best, uh, rather, not my best friend's wedding, but Big Fat Greek
Might be
Wedding.
factory. Uh-huh.
Um, he really, nobody, the studio they didn't get it. And he went and raised the money, you
And get
know,
it done.
to a small amount of money to get the film made. And they took it back to the studio and they said, well, we still don't get it, but you know what, we'll put it in some art houses. And they did, and it blew up, and they had to go open wide. So a credit to him. I mean, I knew that I had a feeling that that would kick somehow or another. It would kick in, but not to the tune of $350 million of that year.
Yeah.
And so it's a great story actually, because he was able to then, you know, make take on projects that he wanted to do, such as Pitch Perfect, and so
And
yeah.
he did the second movie too. My Big Fat Greek Wedding too.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he owns the property.
Yeah. That's
He didn't
awesome.
have to give up the property. He just had them, like, you know,
Do
and
what you
they,
want.
Yeah, Universal kicks their ass every day. How do we let this one get out of the bag like that? But they have a good deal. And he went on, they didn't even get pitch perfect, he told me.
Oh,
He said
really?
that they said, well, we're gonna put the money into this because they figured he's got something going on.
They have
But
to.
anyway,
They got to
great
listen up,
creative.
right?
He's a great creative producer to work with. When he has and he's also from the 80s as well. I mean, he was
Oh,
a massive, that period fan. But it's great to have a producer that creatively understands what the job is to get creative and to make things work in the most entertaining way.
yeah. I could definitely see kind of it being a process if two people can't come up with the same idea or on the same page as well with a
Yeah,
creative idea, right?
yeah. By the way, to mention, it's a musical.
Mhm.
Don't you forget about me. We do use that. We do use the song, but I've rearranged it. And
Mhm.
every song on in the film and musical, I've written all brand new songs that have a little bit of a taste of the Police, a little taste of U2, Susie and the Banshees. A lot little bits of things that you kind
Mhm.
of go, oh, that kind of sounds like that.
Mhm.
But it's all original songs where, much like, what La La Land did.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool. And we'll definitely talk about those and the inspirations and stuff like that. But going back to the musical side of finding kind of yourself in music, right? What was it um what is it about music that makes you feel passionate?
Well, I'm passionate about life. So
Okay.
in me, there's just this ongoing thing about songwriting and the voice, voices, I've always been attracted to female voices.
Hmm.
So I'm not just one. And so I think for me, being in a cover band when I was a kid, from the age of 14, 13, 14, we covered that in the documentary as well, because it helped me write. Elvis Costello. I could sound like, Mick Jagger. Whatever the I wasn't sounding like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I started to write songs, I said, no, you can't. You can't be Bono. You can't be this one or that. You've got to be you.
Yeah.
And so what once I started going into being me, I thought my voice was just, I thought it was too light. I need to be more aggressive. I said, well, you know what to do with that. Just fucking shout it out if you got an interesting process. I really, um, I really think that the cover band thing helped me find, not helped me define, first of all, how to play guitar and
Hmm.
piano, but it sort of helped me understand songwriting, subliminally,
Hmm.
or subconsciously rather. And so I've never been inspired by one thing. I've always been inspired by many different forms of music.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like what inspires me is just the very, you know, life itself. And just, I mean, films inspire me. When I see a good piece of work, if I go to a museum or that'll inspire me. If I see an incredible piece of artwork or a film, it just has a way of falling back in the back of my subconscious, and then my authenticity will spark a song, or I mean, I hate to be so bold, but I could write a song at any given time. It's not like uh, yeah, it's just I'm not. It could be shit, but it could be. But I'm
But it
still,
clicks.
but it's there. Johnny on the spot, and I'm done. So it's in there, and I just to answer the question, basically all forms of life inspires me. Um, Cry Little Sister was inspired basically just by reading the script. I just said, well, I'm going to make this just Joel Schumacher, the director, said, do what you want, and
Mhm.
I'm going like, do what I want. And I read the script. I did not see the film. It's the first time I'd never had a look at the film. And I read the script and I thought, he sent it on. I was living in New York and he sent the script on to me. And I thought it was fantastic. And I got up the next day and started getting an idea and started to write musically something. And then went up to my studio. And it was almost like serendipity at its best. My mate, Mike, was in another studio and he was coming up with this. He was working on these sounds and I kept hearing this boom, 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 boom. And it was such an incredible sound. I said, what is that? And he said, oh, I'm just working on a synclavier, which was a sampling device back then, early days, right, in 1986, and a good one at that. And I said, well, let me take that and just,
Add
and
it.
I started to work. I'd kind of worked on it at home, and then it all just formulated in like pretty much a day. The lyrics came, and you made a demo of it, sent it off to Joel, and thinking like, he said, be adventurous, so I did. And he got back to me just saying, I love this. This is the theme I wanted. And yeah, and there's so much more synergy that went on with that at its best. And but it's like I don't know where that came from. I mean, it wasn't like I read the script. I didn't have any footage to look at, so which I normally had, had the privilege to do to get the vibe of the thread of how things look. I don't think I would have written the song if it hadn't been for um, doing it the way I did it. Because if I would have looked at the film, I think it would have been something else. Of
Mhm.
course, it would have been something else,
Now, when
unless the higher power said, "No, we're staying."
let's stay with it. Now, when you said that, usually you get the script and stuff like that. So how does that process between, okay, let's put, pen to paper and let's come up with lyrics. Like, what's the message behind the song? Like, what is the meaning behind it? Do you usually go with like, hey, every song needs like a message or a meaning, or is it just kind of you just go with it?
On the 50 sound to be so spot on
Mhm.
with what's going on. The script's already written.
Yep.
So I always go back to the song Moon River that was written for Breakfast at Tiffany's. You know the song,
Yep.
right?
Classic.
Please tell me you know the
Of
song.
course. Yeah, 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 yeah. I do. I do. I was like,
It was not my era,
mhm.
but I remember Mom and Dad used to play it. And I said, "Wow, this is such an interesting song." And then I didn't know it was attached to a film at that point. So I heard the story that um, the head of the studio hated the song, and he said, "It doesn't. What's the significance in this? What are these lyrics have nothing to do with the film?" And I was going like, and I had seen the film at this point. I'm going, they have everything to do with this film. It's like this poetic way
Mhm.
of describing this relationship as it sort of like is making up its mind.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is the template of templates to pay attention to. And you know what? It went on to be a successful movie, and that song is a classic.
Yeah.
So, and the interesting thing, Audrey Hepburn, who starred in that, went to the head of the studio. She said, if you have, she was hot at that time, meaning like in the business. And she said, if you get rid of this song, I'll never do a film for you ever again.
Wow.
So she stood by Mancini
Nice.
throughout the Henry Mancini and Johnny Mercer, who wrote the lyrics. But I always have that, I like something that's the atmosphere lyrically.
Hmm.
And because it does, it does talk, the vampires were a family and they were finding, it was about trying to find, you have Michael and Corey Haim's character, Sam, and you have this youthful trying to find family that is not your blood, no pun intended. But it's one of these, it, it, I think that that's the beauty of what songwriting is about when you're writing for a film,
Hmm.
you know? And I've done that quite a bit. I mean, again, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Look in Your Eyes was basically, it's a plays during right before the pool hall, no, the pool house, when, I don't know if you know the film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
classic.
So it plays right there. And it's really kind of, it almost has nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with that scene. It's talking about a, it's just a genuine, sincere, look, when I make love to you, I know there's something true, which has nothing, it has something to do with it, but it has nothing to do with it because it's its own entity.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It comes in full circle, and it's just something that's I always found interesting, um, between that process. I've never spoken to a musician in my life. If you asked me, "Hey, Alex, what was your first instrument?" I would say it was in high school, freshman year, and I was backup. This is how bad I am. I was backup cowbell. That's how bad I was. I sucked. They even put me in backed up cowbell and they would put me back up triangle. That's it. They didn't let me touch anything else. And I messed up that too. So who knows?
Oh, that's a shame.
It is. It is. I wish.
Hey,
I wish.
maybe your calling was to be what you do,
Yeah.
interview people that have talent, and
Yeah.
maybe that's a talent in itself. To ask, so far, you're asking all the right questions. You've got a good personality.
I appreciate
So,
that.
buck the cowboy and the triangle.
There we go. There we go.
Was not for you, mate.
So you understand. So that little skit that Will Ferrell does when it says we need more cowbell, my family bought this shirt and I had it. It said we need more cowbell, and it would be because I was terrible. I was really bad at it. I loved music, but I'm just not gifted in that area. I give up.
Yeah,
You know.
the thing is that there's millions of people that don't have any musical talent, but the appreciation of music, I mean, I can't believe it would be a person on the planet that doesn't have an appreciation for whatever their taste is in music, because it really is a sustainer for all of our emotions and, for that matter, our serotonin in our brains. It does stuff that's just we can't explain.
Yeah.
You know,
And like I said, it could be moving, it could be inspiring. It's everything that just like film. I think film and music are very close because they're very personal. It's very personal to
yeah.
to the person that performs. So, I
Yeah,
think.
nothing like seeing a great movie and you get inspired by an actor or an actress as to how they pulled it off.
Yep, definitely.
We know those films, and is, it's, that stuff, all of this stuff can come easy, but most of the time it's studying it. And without studying, nothing will come easy. You can just go, wow, I did this scene or I wrote this song, and
Mhm.
it just flowed so easily. But what about the 100 million hours that you spent on trying to get something right? Well, that's when those moments happen, when you kind of think there's got to be something wrong. I came up with the thing in 10 minutes, or I did that scene with one
Uh,
take. That's it, and they went with it.
mhm.
So, but it's magic, and that's the great thing about the arts. Let it be painting or sculpturing, and
Mhm.
it's. I'm so fascinated by how it comes together. But it is really about that. It's
Yep.
putting. There are those few that it just happens all the time.
Yeah.
and they didn't have to put in a lot of time.
It
So
happens, right?
somebody just put a little bit of Asperger's right there or something, you know?
Yeah, it happens like that. And that's with everything in life, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes, you just
absolutely.
you get the luck of the draw, and unfortunately, some people have to take the tough road, and some people just it is what it is, man. Unfortunately, but uh,
Yeah,
talk.
I love the fact that there are no quick answers to why inspiration happens and why, it falls in the category of why are we here?
Yep,
Or, what is our purpose?
yep.
All these other things that we keep asking questions about.
Mhm.
And music is one of those things. It really goes like, how did you do that? Wow, I'm so inspired by this. You know, it makes me feel so it's a part of life, obviously, but it's a mystery. There's only 13 notes,
That's it.
and
I didn't know any
they
of them.
expand it, go figure, right?
Um, talking about instruments and stuff, what was again, you play every single instrument known to man, probably. What was the first instrument that you learned how to play?
The guitar.
Guitar? Tried
Yeah,
it, couldn't do it.
yeah. Well, if you didn't do the cowbell well, you were in trouble that night. If you could have just gotten the triangle thing.
Man, the triangle there, you know what? I was just like, this is bullshit. I'm like, what kind of, and I forgot what song they were playing too, and I was just like, this I don't even know where we're going with it. And he would point at me when I had to do the triangle and I wasn't paying attention, or I was just like, whatever, man. So the
We're
guitar,
counting on that triangle, mate.
that
Let's
was
get
my
it.
key, that was my moment, and I blew it. I was
Yeah.
like, whatever. You know what? The hell with
But
the triangle.
the interesting thing is the guitar looked very complicated to me as a kid, and we did have a piano in the house. My
Okay.
my dad played a bit. My dad was a fantastic singer. He's from Dublin, Ireland, and great man. And he was a jack of all trades, kind of, of music. I really got to say, he was one. Both of my parents were big music fans. I mean, their era was obviously Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, all of that stuff, which I wasn't going like, I was thought this stuff's cool, but I'm not going to tell my friends it's cool. You know what I mean? At that point, when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
14 years old, you want to come off cool with what you're doing. But like, long story short, there's a bloke down the road who was in a band. They were really popular around, local cover band.
Mhm.
And I used to he was teaching me guitar chords and stuff down the road. I tried to take lessons, but it was sort of, yeah, it was difficult. I didn't want to read music and play. I wanted to learn chords. I knew there was something in me that once I learned how to do that, I could really excel with music. And so later on, about a year later, he said, "Hey, you got a good voice, man." And because I'd be singing, learning riffs and whatever it was, and that he was showing me and chord progressions. And he said, "Would you want to join our band? Our singer's going off to college." And I said, "I'm 14 at this point," and I'm going, "Well, I'd love to." He said, "Want to come and audition?" So I auditioned. The band went, "You're in." And but I had to tell my parents, they played like 3 to 4 nights a week, in clubs. And my parents said, "Well, as long as you don't get behind on your schooling and get up for class in the morning." I said, "Oh, trust me, I'll do it." Oh my God, what I got myself into just to be able to do music by coming home at midnight,
Oh God.
going into bed, having to wake up at 6 in the morning to get dressed, ready to go to school. It was, you lie there with music in you till you don't fall asleep until 1, 2 in the morning. So I was like, my mom would say I had to drag you out of that bed, and so, but they let me do it, and they were very supportive. My brother, actually, my younger brother, talks about it in the documentary, and it was interesting because I'm not around for when they're doing these interviews,
Mhm.
but he says, my parents really did support him. They knew that this was something that would be that he had something that he needed to do. And when I was a kid, I had what was called dissociation, which basically is a form of anxiety, but I would have it. It's like you're feeling like you're not in your body,
Okay.
and you feel, you feel like you transported somewhere else. I mean, a lot of people took drugs to do that. On the one hand, wasn't into taking any drug that was going to alter what I am already altered to. But
Exactly.
I think because of that, they didn't know what it was, but they thought it was what's called petit mal, which is a slight form of epilepsy. But I didn't have, so that was the only thing until much later on,
Hmm.
uh, found out what it was. And I did have anxiety. It's triggered by anxiety. And, not that I was an anxious kid, but it would just be these bizarre, like I wouldn't feel I was there. I knew where I was, but I just felt like I was on I'd entered into another stratosphere.
Interesting. Interesting.
And I think that has a lot to do with my musicality. I really do. Because, and I still, on occasion, can get that feeling.
Hmm.
I did suffer from anxiety later on, and I had panic attacks at one point, which was also related to that family. But it's under control. I don't take any medications. I do take, one thing if it's ever starts to come on, it's basically a mild, it's not a drug really. It's just Zoloft. But
So
if I
you
have,
would have, so you would have like kind of panic attacks before performing?
no,
No?
I get I mean, I get the, you can't go, if you're not getting that little butterfly
Uh-huh.
thing,
Then you shouldn't do it.
you're,
You're in
you're, you're fucked because
yeah.
that's part of getting up there. Once you're on stage, once hitting the first few notes and you're in the zone, you're good. But yeah, I get that. But that doesn't trigger off,
Mhm.
the any kind of panic or anything like that. But back to when I was a kid, the one thing I remember playing my first gig with the band, it was at a Catholic youth organization. I played, and it was a full packed out gymnasium or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And I I was hoping it wouldn't happen. We only played like a 35, 40-minute set, which seemed like it went on for hours.
Mhm.
And when I was done, we killed. And audience was like, a bunch of kids, right? And so my mom, I remember getting in the car with my mom, and she said, "It didn't happen, did it?" And she knew. And I said, "Nope." And at that point, I knew that she knew that I had to keep doing this, you know. And so I have, and I think that in more ways than one, music it's been my ally, it's been my savior. And the fact that I can create music and that people let me know how much it saved them from the various things in their lives,
Mhm.
uh, especially Cry Little Sister. I mean, you'd never think that that song had so much versatility to what it means to an audience.
Yeah.
I mean, when I wrote it, I said, well, I felt good about it. But I had no idea that it would go on to have the magnitude, let alone being covered by so many different artists, from Marilyn Manson to this one, that one. But even the physical letters that I used to get back in the day that would be sent to Atlantic Records, which was the soundtrack company that released the album, it was astonishing, how, I mean, one story was she was a 20-year-old girl. Her younger sister was passing away from leukemia. And she said, I just want you to know my sister, blah, 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 name, passed away. And all she wanted was to have your song on repeat as she was in her final days.
Wow.
I broke down in the taxi. I had to go up. I'd gone up to Atlantic Records because they said, you have a pile of mail here that you need to take it. And I went like, oh, mail. And I didn't understand. And then I didn't even equate it being about Lost Boys. And it was like two big duffel bags.
Mhm.
And I kind of went through them all, for the most part. But that was the first letter I read. And
Wow.
I thought, wow, I literally broke down in the cab. I just said, If this is what you put here on this earth to do, that's all I need, you know?
Definitely. And it's one of those songs, like I said, it's so iconic, so vital to, like I said, it's the Lost Boys theme song. Now, when you first did the song, did you think it would have so much impact? I mean, look, we're here in 2025 and you're still performing the song. People love the song. Like it's changed so much in like in generations of just listening to that song. Did you think it would have so much of an impact to this day?
Not at all. I figured it was working well for the film. I really liked, the thing was when we put the song, I find everybody agreed it was the theme from the movie,
Hmm.
and they approved the budget obviously to go on and do the proper production. Joel heard the demo and he thought the demo sounded amazing, and said, "Don't go far." I remember he said, "Don't go too far away from that demo." And I said, "I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to do it." So, but when I flew out to LA with my manager, John, at the time, to start putting the song and just kind of, he wanted me to be part of what the creative process of like where placement was. And in the beginning of the film, as if you recall, when it's going over the water, and
Yep.
you see
This is the title and everything.
yeah,
Mhm.
my voice was in there, and so I just said, "Pull my voice out, just let it be the choir." And my manager looked at me like, "What are you doing? Committing artist suicide?" And I'm going, "No, less is more there. It gives you the." And I think Joel wanted it there. It was, and the editor, we did it, and it definitely had an impact,
Mhm.
you know, and because it pays off so well when the vocal actually comes in the middle of the
I agree.
film with that whole trilogy scene. But yeah, man, it was sheer magic with that. But to answer your question, not a clue that it would go on to. I thought it was working for the film, but I thought my other songs of mine worked, that they would have been big
So
hits,
too,
or they would
right?
have
Yeah.
stood the test of time. And they were good songs too. But there are so many fans of that song that have never seen the movie. That's what's crazy.
That is wild.
I know, right? And I thought, and they tell me, and I go, well, you got to go see the film because you're missing half the action here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of those fans are younger too. They've heard the
Oh,
song in a club, or they've heard it. I mean, that song has a life that just keeps going on in different. Yeah, so um, I remember talking to Bill Lawrence, who's the creator of Scrubs, and Ted Lasso, and he said, and he's used my music in a lot in Scrubs and what have you. He said, "Does it ever bother you that Cradle Sisters the most important, is the biggest?" I said, "No, because you take my songs and put them in your TV shows, and so and so puts my songs in TV shows, and people are like, who is that?" I said, it has an impact. He said, he said, "It's kind of like Hey Jude, isn't it?" And I'm going like, "Well, that's a compliment." He said, "But I think it's better." I'm going like, "Really?" I'll let
Uh,
Paul know.
um, who added the kids choir? Like who did you was that your input or was that someone else's input for the children singing?
Yeah, what was that now? You said
Um, for uh for Cry Little Sister, the kids singing, like I think it's a choir, right?
choir, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I came up with it. It was really interesting when I finally got in the chorus to work,
Mhm.
the Cry Little Sister chorus. I was just going to sing you something else, and then I just sort of, I jokingly started. I came up with the melody on the piano, and
Mhm.
I jokingly went, "Thou shalt not." I go, "Wow, that should be cool if this were choir."
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, using the first three letters of thou shalt not from Moses? Is there a copyright infringement? Do I have to go up to climb up the mountain and
The
have a
mountain.
chat with him? Um, and I just went with it. I just thought it makes every bit of sense. And everybody, and then yeah, it was just that thing that I knew that it needed. And I don't use, the only commandment I use at the end of it is kill.
Shall not kill. Yeah.
The other one was fear,
Fear,
whatever.
fall, die.
Yeah, there you go. All of that.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Cool.
But it was just one of those magical things that just kind of knowing I needed something else to really pay this thing off, And when I did the demo, I just got four kids to come in and just, double them and, overdub them a bunch of times. And then it gave the essence of what it was to be.
So how long does the demo last? Like, is it like it's like the verse, or like how do you just do like a couple lines, or how does that
No,
work?
I made a complete song out of it.
Oh, did you?
I wrote the lyrics that after I wrote half the lyrics that afternoon, but I knew what the chorus was. I knew I had the lyrics to the chorus. And then I started to work on the verses to create, images that parlay themselves, that it could be separate and apart from it, but it's right in the peripheral of what the film is, creating images that complement the film,
Gotcha.
because none of the, using my Shangri-La, I can't forget why you were mine, I need you. I mean, that's basically, you could say, well, that's in an image,
Mm.
this mysterious girl, so, but it wasn't that. It was just basically images. Blue masquerade, strangers look on. It's like looking at youth, like, we are the strangers, and it's just, yeah, I can't, it's very sort of Edgar Allan Poe-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You got some talent there, G.
Whatever you want to call it. I think I do. I'm still making a living.
There you go, man. I mean, you must be doing something right, right?
I think, yeah, I think a good human being is doing something right.
I
I've
agree.
never been full of myself about, you know, the stardom thing and all of that stuff. I think that the way it's worked out is a great way to grow older, or not old, but the fact that it didn't all happen to me early on when, having when it possibly could have, but it's just I was just not a victim, but it was the circumstances, the business, this, that, and the other. I made some good records in the 80s, and to this day now they're being streamed like crazy. So it's a different, and I get to do what I love doing. I'm now also creating Cradle Assisted a rock opera, which has been ongoing now for the better part, which is a separate entity. I mean, it's part of Lost Boys, but it's its own entity. It's like, Wicked is to the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yep.
It's sort of its
Same
offshoot.
thing, but it's offshoot. Yep.
And that's what, yeah. And Lost Boys goes up on Broadway next March 2026.
Oh,
So that's going to help my rock opera, which is going to travel, but with great images. I mean, my show has amazing images in the background. I do songs with my team, but it just looks and sounds great. So hopefully you get a chance to see it. We did play in Dallas at what is it? What's that big convention you guys have there? Texas Nightmare or something? Frightmare or
yeah,
something?
Frightmare. Texas Frightmare is nuts.
Yeah, I played there 5 years. I went there. It was great. The guy, the promoter was great. It was too many people in this ballroom. It was pretty Are you there?
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, it was probably my connection. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah,
It's like gotta get that internet bill, you know.
yeah.
But yeah,
There you go.
Texas Frightmare is it's wild. I met Jameson in actually San Antonio. They had a con there. I try not to go to the Texas one, the
Yes.
Singer, because it's so packed. So I could
Yeah.
barely I
Yeah.
can barely
Yeah.
meet anyone,
I
you know?
played Jameson. So I did San Antonio about pandemic. It just slowed down. So maybe 3 years. Jason Patrick was there, thinking that was it. And then, but it was pretty full on there, pretty full on there. We didn't, yeah, it was quite a, and then,
Yeah, people come out. People come out to Frightmare. It's like I said. I met Jason Patrick there, and I met. It took me maybe almost a day and a half just to meet him because the line was so big. San Antonio, I could walk up to him, so it wasn't that bad. So that's the difference. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Jason's dear friend.
yeah, yeah. So quick question, how would you handle traveling and being away from home for an extended period of time while you're touring? How's that? Because, like I said earlier,
Are you
um,
talking about presently? Or,
say that one more time.
are you talking about being away in present time or being away when I was a kid?
Present time.
I mean, I I go out when I want to go out, I
Nice.
go doing 250 days a year in a row, I mean, those days, I've never been one to have I did all that already, and I love going if the gigs are right to do, and they
Mhm.
can be in a row,
Uh-huh.
but I've got so much stuff going on with the musicals and the various things that creating songs for various or film or TV shows, that kind of thing. So it's a good balance with what I have, and um, but yeah, I love it. I mean, it's thank God I have, when you come see the show, I've got to, I take good care of myself. So
Okay.
I can do an hour and a half, 2 hours and be working the stage and making it work. And people think I'm 20
There we
for
go.
doing, for
There.
doing that.
Um, Describe your favorite and least part about being a musician. What's the good side? What's the good stuff? What's the bad stuff?
Well, being a musician, there's no bad side to it, except if you get a broken hand or, you can't play or you lose your voice. That's the downside.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the business that comes into play with being a musician slash artist is sometimes can wear on you because shit doesn't always happen in the right way,
Yeah.
Not that there is a right way, but things can just can go sideways, and you can, depending on how you carved out your career, you could have things that are trailing you from, you sold your publishing at one point and you can't get it back and things like that, But for the most part, I think it can wear you down if you overdo it. It's like anything. It definitely has its limits of overdoing anything. But I think that in that it's music, you can't. You basically have to keep it balanced as well. But I just to answer that question, it's really the deals, the kind of things we do, making the right, signing with a manager or doing this. Those are a bit of the downfalls, but they're also learning experiences as well.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and
Understand.
the good side is just, my God, I get to do this. There's no other way to put it. It, it's just, thank God that there's this in my life.
Do you have any favorite venue that you performed at? Maybe a place that you like going there a lot?
Well, I played Carnegie Hall. That was fun. I think that was more like I got to play Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, I mean
I,
that's
I played Carnegie Hall with Roger Daltrey, and we did it was I was writing and producing his album. You know who that is, right?
of course, of course. I'm not.
So, and you're in one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah.
But he said, I said, there's this benefit for the City Kids of New York Foundation. And I said, my mate, Laurie Meadoff, is wanted to see if I would come, if we would come and do a performance there to raise money. And he said, let's do it. He said, I've never played Carnegie Hall. And I thought the Who had played there. He said, no. So we did it. I put the band together, and it was such an amazing night. Everybody from De Niro to, I mean, the people that were there, and a lot of Wall Street people came, and we raised about 1.2 million that night. So
Oh, wow, nice.
it really kept the organization going strongly, because it was a place where they could go after school, kids that were living on the street, you're talking 1991.
Okay.
So, yeah. But as far as man, that's a loaded question, because there are quite a few venues that have been, I do, Manchester, I can't remember the arena there. Oh my God. But I played that a couple of times, and that's really a good venue to play at. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to catch all kinds of shit. What about our?
No,
But it's really, there's a lot of great venues.
no, I understand.
It's a bit of a loaded question.
Yeah. What would you say your favorite performance in your career was? If you had to choose maybe a top three, was there anything, or is just the whole journey itself?
Well, singing to my son when he was 2 and 3 years of age, that was probably my favorite performance.
That's awesome.
And God, when Brooke McCarter was alive from Lost Boys, we did a show in Orlando that was just compelling. He was a drummer as well. He was an amazingly talented musician. So sorry that he had to pass so soon. But that definitely is in my top five. And I remember it was an outdoor show. We had played, it was Spooky Empire, I think it was. It was a con.
Orlando, yep, it's still going on.
It was just, the promoter came up and said, listen, we've got to close this area down, but we have another area. We can have everybody move it. There's people that can get in to see it. So, true story. So they said, Brooke and I looked at each other and the other guys and said, sure, why not? It was already midnight.
Yeah.
So they moved everything over there, set it up. We went over there and performed at this other area, which this place was massive. It was a pool there, I remember. And people that were at the other one came, and other people. It was just, and it was outside. And we didn't start playing till 3 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So you can call that, the first half of that was compelling. We both knew what we were doing was like not serious magical. But by the time we got over there, we go like, are we good still? You know what I mean? So it was a very memorable night, if you will, But yeah, that was it. There's those times where you just know it's just really happening. And to Brooks, a lot of those shows were with Brooke in my memory. But we did one in New Jersey as well. That was just really, yeah. I mean, God,
It's a lot. It's too many.
but yeah, I do remember when it's like you feel like you're on
You
another
feel it?
planet kind of thing. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool, cool. What's the best advice best piece of advice another musician has ever given you?
Uh, I can give you the worst advice.
Oh, we can try that too. We can do
Let's
both.
go. We'll go for worst advice. You shouldn't be doing this. There's no career in this.
Oh no.
Never going to make a living doing this.
Who said that?
Um, some girl actually, some female. I think we were breaking up.
Oh no.
I was about 22, 23, and she was trying to be practical minded with me. Wrong guy to be practical with. Um, I think that the best advice was, God, that's a tough one. But I do remember somebody saying, just trust your instincts of what you're doing. Don't let anybody tell you you're not too, that you, this is way too much of a task to take on musically. So that was some of the best advice I ever got. And yeah,
What would you give an inspiring musician that's just coming up? What would be your advice to anyone that's watching that wants to be a musician?
understanding your passion and understanding your limits as to what you can do, but then disregard anything I just said.
Bravo. Love it. Love it. That's awesome. Definitely clipping that one. That's amazing. Well, G Tom Mac, man. I want to say, G, it's been
What a
a
ter what
it's
a terrific interview, man! I loved all the questions. You really you've got your thing down, man.
I appreciate it.
I don't say that lightly.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's an honor coming from you. But before we close out the show, man, I think we need, if you could, let's can we hear Cry Little Sister? Can we, or is it that's for the next interview?
For you, cry, little sister, come to your brother, unchain me, sister. Love is with your brother. Yeah.
Love it.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Excellent.
Acapella on a Tuesday.
Love it.
Acapella Tuesday. You've heard of Taco Tuesday? Well, I'm Acapella Tuesday.
Well, thank you. I love that. I appreciate you doing that. That's gonna be a clip forever in my mind, man. That's awesome. You still got it. Still keep doing what you're doing, man.
I don't, you know what, mate? It's unbelievable. My voice, I do look after myself, but my voice is still there. In fact, in some ways, it feels better than when I was in my, 20s. It's just, I do take care of it. I want, I work it out with singing and doing exercises for the voice, but it's the physicality. I work out a good 4 times a week, doing different things. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't to have the stamina that I have to go out and do this stuff live. I couldn't do it. I'm 103 now.
You're a vampire. You live on forever, brother.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I want to say thank you so much. I do appreciate you spend time talking about your career. A big fan, love your work. Keep doing what you're doing. Can't wait to see what you have in the future, especially with the musicals coming out, man. I'll be looking to get you back on and once they come out and talk to you about them.
Oh, for sure. I look forward to coming back to Dallas. I love that town. I love Texas for that. I have good mates that live in Austin, and I've gone down there a few times. Good musician mates is what I'm saying. But I just want to add one more thing, a plug for my son.
Go ahead.
He's an amazing cutting edge designer, and his name is Quinn McMann. So look him up on Instagram and all of that. You won't go. I mean, a lot of females love his work.
There you
And so it's not just for females, he does males as well, but how he's excelled from the age of 15 to doing what he's doing. It kind of reminds me of myself, really,
go. Awesome.
But his stuff is such cool stuff, I can't say
Amazing. That's
and
awesome.
it's not because he's my son, but it's because he's my son.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
All right, man.
All right. Well, thank you
What a
so much,
pleasure.
buddy.
What a
Thank
pleasure. Really, great interview. I've done tons of them, and this was a really fun one, man.
I appreciate it. It means a lot to me.